So today in that panel, we are going to talk about the emerging market, the chance that represent Web3 to get a fraud leak for those markets and to catch up with the developed countries and maybe go further and beyond them in the future. But also the chance that represent those markets for the decentralization as a whole with huge pool of talents who are coming in, who are more and more trained, skilled, and who will be a chance to develop further the decentralization world. So first I'm presenting myself quickly, and then I will pass the mic to every one of the speakers to present himself. So I'm Benoît Koulesha, I'm the founder of Web3 Talent Fair and Good Hive. I'm involved into the Web3 for the last 6 years, and this is very interesting, very passionate. I hope through that fair to help transfer this passion to the many. This is one of the bottlenecks of the development of our ecosystem is a lack of talent. So that's why we're doing that fair, and that's why also emerging market in that context can be a great chance for our ecosystem. So Tanguy.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the floor. So as you said, I'm Tanguy. I also work in Web3. So I've co-founded a company called Kaba Art Initiatives. I guess you see it on the screen. Kaba Art Initiatives is a startup based in Africa, Rwanda, and we are building the first hybrid platform to promote and sell African contemporary art, physical artwork on a large scale. And we're using blockchain for that. And I will be talking about, of course, the search for Web3 talents in an African context, which is obviously an emerging market. So thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Rushal Kaparnis, and I'm from Bangalore, India. So to just give you a brief, I used to work with Supra Oracles, and then now I'm here with LV Research. I co-founded LV Research. So what we do is we are building a crypto-native AI model, wherein as a developer you can come up and create anything out of it. So that's basically about what I do right now, and I have a heavy research background in terms of not cryptographic but the other business side of crypto. So yeah, that's about me. I'll pass on the mic.
Hi, so thanks for having us. So on my side, I'm Steve Inginois. I'm basically born in Cameroon and grew up in Belgium. So right now working for Web3 firm Kirok, which is a market maker. So really background like electrical engineering, so really not financial, but just Web3, the way it is, basically allows to learn and to kind of specialize in any domain. So we really focus on everything market making and helping with flow when it comes to that front. So really happy here to speak a little bit more about like emerging markets and the talent pool that are related to it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. So we have a nice panel of people from different backgrounds that will give us their views about how the emerging market will be impacted or are impacted actually right now and also in the future with the Web3 technologies. Who wants to start with that?
Could you repeat the question real quick?
So here we're talking about the chance to represent Web3 for the emerging market. How do you think Web3 is transforming those markets to propulse or to send them into the 21st century and to catch up their gap with the developing country? And also, what are the signs that shows that they might even better than catch up, like go beyond the developing country in the future?
Yeah, thank you. I think a keyword is beyond. The blockchain infrastructure could mean that African countries, I'm talking about what I know here, which is the African market, could leapfrog in different industries, whether it's in government administration, logistics, finance, and other sectors like this. And that could propel the economy, and this is what Africa as a continent needs today. It's scalable, affordable infrastructure, which is one of the key hurdles that the African governments have been facing for the last decades, maybe since the independence of many of the African countries that I know. So that could be, I think, in my eyes, a game changer, and that's what we want to do with Kaba Art Initiatives. So we do work in the arts. We are developing technical solutions for the specific art industry. But within that, we are actually tackling logistical problems, financial problems, authenticity problems, so tokenization, and so forth and so on, which could be applicable in the real estate business or in logistics, and I think, in my eyes, be even more efficient than what we have here, for example, in the West. And I can give you a quick example. In the government administration today, when you want to administrate the land, what you have notaries that have cadastral records to know who is the owner of that or this land. There's still a lot of problems going on in, especially the countryside in many African countries. In Rwanda, that's the case. And what we see is that we cannot solve the disputes between people because someone is saying, I'm the owner over this land. Someone else is saying, no, I am the owner. And in order to move on, you need the authorities to come and say, no, from now on, we have stated that person X is the owner and we have it in our database. That is not possible today because it's too expensive. You have to set up an office in the countryside, which is far off from the capital, where everything is centralized. And on top of that, you need to train notaries, and notaries are not that easy to train. It takes a long time. You need universities that are specific to that line of work. So it takes a long time in order to set up an infrastructure that could work efficiently. But with blockchain, you could have actually a very efficient cadastral record just in a matter of 2 years if you have the right Web3 talents, and this way have a leapfrog jump in the infrastructure, and actually have, in my eyes, a way better system than what we have here in the West. Because to be honest, having a notary, you have to meet the notary, sending emails, and it takes a long time here in Europe to even conduct this kind of activities. So this is, in a nutshell, what it could mean for Africa. We could leapfrog for sure in many industries.
So I think Web3, blockchain, or even decentralization in general solves the problem of trust in emerging markets. So what I mean by trust is a lot of times emerging markets have not actually developed the regulations around trust. It could be banking, it could be some apps, or it could be anything, even something like P2P, like the trust is very, very low. But what decentralization or blockchain does is that it actually helps the people in emerging market to trust without the trust. So it's like being trustless. So I think that's one of the highest impact that Web3 has on the emerging markets. And on top of that, if you just think about probably, let's say, talent. So usually, probably where I am from in India, we wear a degree or a paper market. What it means is that if you have the degree, if you have the paper, which says that you can do this job, then only you will get the job. That was the scenario first. But with Web3 or even with the evolution of internet, it has happened that you have skills, you get the job, right? Prior to being a founder, I have worked with a couple of companies in Web3 and Web2, but I've never showed my degree. No one knows either I'm a doctor or I'm an engineer, right? And that's because the proof of work. It's very easy to put proof of work in front of there. Internet was level 1, where you could put your proof of work somewhere, but you could still fake it, but not on Web3. Right, because the attestation, like I'm here, I have a Pope which says, yeah, I was in ECC Belgium, right? But I have that Pope minted on chain. So I think from that perspective, the Web3 is helping the emerging markets way beyond, and I'm pretty sure the systems or the culture that the emerging markets will set on the basis of decentralization will be way beyond that the world has seen. So that's my take.
Yeah. I think purely from a financial perspective, just like Tanguy mentioned, I'm also going to focus a little bit on what I know here. So being born in Cameroon, I do have a family who explained me what the devaluation of the CFA franc had as impact on them. So basically, from one day to another, the franc lost about 80 to 90% of its value, which was huge, and the local politics have no say in what is happening. So the economy actually do not belong to the people, do not belong to the country. And this is something that Web3 tackles, right? Just by giving the power to the people to basically decide about their future. And even if that's not the case, to actually give them the tool to be able to, kind of protect themselves. And when I speak about that, I'm thinking about, like solutions where on chain you could basically have access to much more global economies. I'm speaking, you can have access to USD through USDC, for example, or EuroC on chain, and then you can basically kind of protect yourself, and having exposure to these stronger economies is not something that was done before. So really Web3 sometimes act as a let's say financial passport, helps inclusion. Like back then bancarization was something that wasn't in mind of some population, and still very low in certain regions, but Web3 nowadays allow, without KYC, and of course someone might challenge that, to be able to onboard people to help them for basic needs. And so I'm speaking about the really access to strong currency, investment product, for example, because it's not something that is spread, insurance products. So there are just so many access, right, that you can do with Web3, and I think that's something that really helps overall the population. And I think that's something that is growing. I think here in Europe, for example, is much more on an investment perspective, right, rather than accessing a real fundamental need that Web3 is solving. So yeah, I think that's something that really makes an impact when it comes down to the possibility of Web3 on emerging market. You can see examples of Nigeria, where you have a very huge amount of inflow because people build over there, like people trying to get that access, and it really brings value. So yeah, that would be my take on that front.
Okay, so we've seen that blockchain can help in notarizing land ownership, reputation, and trust, and also helps into financial inclusion. Do you have any other thoughts now that we have a first round on this, or do you? In my view, it's clear that the developing countries, they have developed a world system through the last century, or even more actually, and they inherit from that all technologies in their process, and I can see how it's a chance for a country who don't have this administration system or inheritance tradition to leapfrog directly straight to the solution, which is the most modern we have now, and which is the most effective. So thanks for your views on that. If any of you has something to add on this point. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So the second part of the discussion is about the talent pool that emerge from those developing countries. Uh, there is a huge amount of people who can join the global system, who for them working in the Web3 is can be very interesting because it helps develop the country, so they can be involved in changing how their family, their economy, their country looks like, and this way they become experienced in working in the field, and can become a chance for the rest of the world as a pool of talent that we can use for developing further the Web3. As I said in introduction, this is the main bottleneck of the industry. How do you see the pool of talent in your own area of interest and the geographical areas that you know, and how do you see that evolving?
You want to go first? Sure.
Yeah, so I think it's a very good point, right? Like the way I see it is as I mentioned a little bit before, there is this like the fact that Web3 is present and basically solve so many challenges actually shows the world as well that there is value to be created and that there are real case, real problems that are actually being solved. And as such, we've seen a very big inflow of capital into regions like Nigeria, into regions like Kenya, South Africa, when it comes to Web3 and financial opportunities. And basically that translates into more demand for talent, more work. So you have a lot of talent actually present. There is capital that create dynamic demand, by the way. And I think just like over here as well, people do understand how, let's say, innovative the Web3 is compared to the Web2, and that basically creates this interest from a talent pool perspective, which is like very easy as such to be able to onboard them. And when you think about it, like probably the last point is that compared to Web2, there is a lot of documentation and really open notions, open solutions. Everything is basically available. So for whoever wish to do something, to learn about something, it's very accessible up onto Web3. I think we've seen a lot of, let's say we call them protocols or application of Web3, basically being able to be replicated by anyone in a decentralized way, right? So that just create much more opportunity and as such, like a huge demand of talent overall. Yeah.
So to adding to, so probably in India or a lot of emerging markets, I'm pretty sure the talent is great. You would see the shipping speed of someone from an emerging market, like a protocol from an emerging market, as compared to a protocol from a market which is already established. Huge difference. Because the shipping speeds are fast. I'm probably the other reason could be lack of regulations on the working hours and all of that. That's one. But in terms of talent, great talent for sure, ships fast. And there's one thing which I'm pretty sure all of us would agree is that the internet has actually enabled the emerging countries to learn very faster. Very, very faster. I mean, AI, before AI hits the colleges, the courses, there is someone who's creating content on AI, on YouTube, and there is probably a kid, probably 13, 14 years old in India, in a tier 3 town, is actually learning about it, or probably coding something, doing something, probably in Discord, there's a group of 3, 4 people, they're creating some sort of a small agent. It could be just about, finding girls around, right? It could that be, but so this sort of change because of internet and then on topping Web3 has actually helped emerging countries like India or the continent of Africa to have talent at disposal and at a par. And there's one thing that I always try to find, like when I'm hiring talent, is that person a problem solver? I mean, there's one thing that this person knows how to do it, but there's one thing that can this person solve that problem? Even if even if there's some specific need of a skill which that person is not skilled right now, but if he is a problem solver, he's going to go on YouTube, put it down there. Oh, hey, hi, I want to this, and that person is going to solve that problem. So you will find a lot of people in emerging countries who are problem solvers first, because it's survival for us, right? So, I mean, that's one of the differences that we have. And along with, I would also like to press on the issue of something called, something in India we have, wherein earn in dollars and spend in rupees, right? A lot of people do say this. What it means is that you work for companies who are abroad, probably multinational companies, or who have their bases here in Europe or probably in West. What that does usually is it creates a good arbitrage for the companies and good arbitrage for the talent who is providing their services. So, for example, you could hire a great engineer probably for $2,000. In West, it's nothing, but back in India, it's huge. It's huge. Probably that person would be in the top 10% earners of the country. So, so what happens as a market, as a free market, a lot of people want that piece of $2,000. So they are gonna try very hard, gain a lot of skills so that they can qualify for that job. That in turns just means that the talent is there, the shipping speed is fast, and the art of learning is there. If you want to hire someone, we are all ready, right? Yeah, so that's about it.
Well, there are many things to talk about this subject, so I just want to at the same time react to your ideas and obviously respond to your question. What comes in my mind is that in my context, so I'm going to talk about my experience. What I've seen oftentimes is that constraints make people dynamic and creative. So you have tons of solutions that in the West we have no clue about. In Rwanda, for example, in East Africa, great systems, technology that is working perfectly fine, but no one knows about it. And I can take an example as mobile money. Mobile money is amazingly efficient and is actually on the verge of giving this way to Leapfrog, as I mentioned before. So mobile money, in short, is you can use a dumb phone to basically save money. You can have up to $10K on a dumb phone and make transactions, which allowed a lot of people, even in the countryside, to run businesses more safely, and you can pay anything with your dumb phone. You don't need to have cash on you. So it allows so many different possibilities, but that came from the constraints of back in the days when we didn't have smartphones. Now everyone does in Africa, even the countryside, so people have to understand that as well. When I talk about blockchain, that could be easily run even in the far-off countryside, and I guess it's also the case in India and maybe Cameroon. Back in the days when we had, for the first time, mobile money was founded in 2009, 2008, something like this. Everyone had a dumb phone, but you had always to have cash everywhere you go, and so that led to so many problems. That constraint made the rise of this business case that was, which is today the norm. And I think in Web3, we can also have that. And I come back to what I said. This is how we're going to leapfrog in different industries. I talked about government administration. Well, it's because we don't have offices in the countryside that we can come up with such an idea. And how I see people getting into Web3 is exactly that. It's people need to see use cases that can be impactful in their environment. And that's what's lacking today, and that's what we have been facing. As long as we were talking about blockchain, but not telling what's the purpose of blockchain and what it could mean for the communities, it was really hard to find the right people. So what we did is, first of all, having a way better package on what it is that blockchain could mean for the people there. Because we have great Web2 talents, and they would be very open to go on Web3, but they don't see really like, okay, what's the point? Even if I train, what can I do next? So that's a very key point, is showing people what it could mean in terms of business cases. And I think that's how we're going to shift the problems that we face today of lack of Web3 talents. But I can go into more details about this if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. The motivation is completely key to develop skills, and showing the use case, how it can help, how it can transform your country, I think is a strong strive to perform excellence in the field and to become somehow marketable for the rest of the world. Now I would like to ask you like a more specific question about how do we access nowadays those talent. Maybe they're still developing. Maybe there's some huge pool of talent already. I'm thinking especially to India. I know there's a lot of talent there. My personal experience is that there's a cultural gap, so it's quite difficult in the beginning to work with developing countries in some area. But with a little bit of patience, with a little bit of mindset, then you can get the most out of it. What do you recommend to connect with those talents? Where, how, what would be the different phrases that you recommend to get an operational team member or world team there, according to your own experience?
So one of the easy way to probably a starter point would be that have your presence in the countries that we are. Probably it could be a direct presence or it could be an indirect presence through some organizations. So let's say, for example, there is someone called Levitate Labs in Bangalore, or there's DevFolio in Bangalore. They do a lot of hackathons. So if you go out there and probably just sponsor a hackathon, you would really be able to see the talent right in front of you. Because in ETH India, right, so for a lot of Indians and also for us, right, what happens is that when you come to ETHCC and you look at probably the table and say, where are people? That happens because if you come to ETH India, you will see almost 1,500 to 1,600 developers in under one roof. That's huge. Developers, not just people attending it, not the business side of the people. Developers, 1,500 to 1,600 in one roof, one metropolitan city, that's it. And you would see highest number of projects submitted in that ETH India. So you would probably see 400, 450 projects submitted. I mean, just for you to present your project in the hackathon, you would probably stand in line for half an hour or probably even 40 or 50 minutes. So it's sort of that crowded. So I mean, like there won't be a problem of you finding the talent. The problem is of where do you go and where do you establish your presence. So I mean, to start with, go in India, check out, just have a trip, have amazing food. If you need any recommendations, ask me, I'll help you out. So go out there in India, have some, probably sponsor some hackathon, go to some smaller cities too, because smaller cities also has amazing talent. It's not just the bigger cities because of the reach of the learning mechanisms that we have, YouTube, internet, or even Discord, because people are actually teaching each other. So I work. So I mean, you'd be amazed to see that there is a hut-based company. So the hometown that I'm from, Nasik. From there, probably it's almost 80 kilometers away. The office is a hut. So it was a shelter for animals previously. But what they did is they started to understand that thumbnail making was a really nice business. So one of the guys in the village actually started to serve someone in the States, like making thumbnails. And they thought, oh, this is amazing. Why don't we scale this? So they sort of, had a shelter like it, put up some internet, and the internet is like pretty basic. Your mobile phones, and you use the Wi-Fi. And they just bought one Canva license, which is what, 1,000 rupees or probably $15 a month. So they pulled in together and they started it. It's almost like a 25 people company now. And it's in the same shelter. Like probably you will see a lot of PR. They do it from there. So it's amazing. Like so the point being, you don't have to worry about. You just come in Bangalore, sponsor something, and the talent is out there. You reach out to people. Obviously, you'll have to be also cautious because you just don't go and probably hire someone for 6 months or a year. You talk with them. You understand what they do really understand. Probably give an assignment. See how much they know and see how much they don't. Probably also challenge them with some problems, and if they fit you, you hire them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really think it's definitely a point not to ignore is incentives versus healthy incentive, I would say, versus education, right? I believe one of the best ways to basically source those talent is most of the time to try to educate them. Like you basically have to train them, educate them, and you have to find the right balance with incentive. And that's where, for example, the hackathon falls in place, right? And not wanting to get into how people need to be passionate to do what they do. But I think, like a healthy balance of incentive, of education, and of gaming theory, right? Like really allows you to be able to source those talents. And I think at the end of the day, we see a lot of this initiative, such as hackathon, and now on you also see a lot of protocols, layer like blockchain as yourself, working a lot with these emerging countries where they put programs like Builder's House, where they try to incentivize and help them, educate them, showing them the long-term perspective of being there, right? And I think one story or something I always used to think about is if I was living in a rural place in Africa and like I needed to feed my family, why the hell would I get to learn to code or to learn Web3 if I still can't feed my family, right? So that's really where they need this healthy balance. But apart from that, education is key, incentive is key, long-term alignment is key. And again, as you mentioned earlier, when it's difficult, you need to be creative. So that's also part of what's happening. So yeah, that would be my perspective on that.
Well, I would like to add on what has been said by quickly making an analysis on what has been done by companies, institutions to train, what we have been doing as well. A lot of institutions have invested in chapters, hubs across the continents to train, doing hackathons, and they did make a lot of progress on getting the word across that blockchain exists and this is how you can use it and so forth and so on. What happened in Rwanda is that that's where it stopped. After the training, people were not involved that much anymore with Web3. And that was a big problem because we wanted to build on what you've just learned. You want to build on your experience as a developer. You always start somewhere and then you're going to keep on learning. We found out that the best way to go about this problem is to, after the education part, to give a clear incentive business-wise. It has to make sense in terms of business. It has to make money, even though it sounds like too commercial, but there it's not a problem because that's one of the most basic needs. The government and the infrastructure is lacking, so the best way to sustain yourself is making money and have a family. You have to be able to sustain the kids and so on and so forth. So it has to make sense business-wise. There has to be people thinking about this And this is what we've been doing at Kabaret Initiatives. We came up with a business model that made sense, and that's how we could onboard many talents that were first Web 2, and now they are increasingly becoming Web 3. Now, so that's the second part, the business part. The third part is the finance. So once we have a business idea that makes sense, and maybe we already have a prototype, MVP, and so on and so forth, we need to fund. We need to fund these business cases, because that's another issue, is institutions would heavily invest in education, but you wouldn't see that much investments in startups that have actually ideas. Many people have ideas, but not so many institutions are willing to put the dollar on a good business idea. And so these are the three folds. First, educate. Second, incentivize in terms of business. And then fund, invest if you want to see Web3 develop as I think it should.
Okay. Maybe a final advice about what fair you would recommend around the planet, where we can get in touch with these emerging pools of talents, and to feel the vibes of Web3 in action in those emerging markets. Do you have? It's a new question, but if you have any idea, you've been talking about East India. It gives me a motivation to go there as well. But maybe you have some other events, startup events, or some events in Africa or anywhere that you would like to share about.
Yeah, like on my front, I think I being on the business side of things, I have to be a little bit around the world for multiple conferences, and I do believe that conferences are underrated as a location for sourcing talents. And just as you mentioned before, like East India, there is an hackathon going on, and there is just like an amazing amount of talent. So I think leveraging those occasions, seeing what kind of hackathons are going on, and their website actually like really indicating that let's say aggregates all those information, where you know exactly what conferences are happening and in what part of the world. And there is just so much initiatives nowadays that you can easily find online in those aggregators to be able to be present and to source. And over there, because of the interest there is in the technology as well, there is just so many people available that are there, and I think it's great to be there to speak to them, to be able to source. And I think it's fairly easy, and that will be my take.
If you have anything to share.
You can go ahead.
I will talk about East India.
Well, again, I talk from experience, so I'm just going to talk about what I know. In the region of Rwanda, I don't see many Web3 events going on. Now, there are initiatives that are more not really planned out or spontaneously coming up on university campuses. I think about in Rwanda, ALU, so this African Leadership University. They are, by the way, I think in my eyes, because we have some of them in our team, they train people really well, and they have Web3 initiatives. I would advise to also look up startups. There are some of them working either in Africa directly, they have hubs over there, or from another, from another base, like Credete, which is a money transfer company. It's also a game changer. I think they're going to beat MoneyGram and Western Union in 1 or 2 years for the African diaspora. And yeah, also anyone welcome at our hub headquarters in Kigali. If you want to see what we're doing, and if you want to be inspired by a business case that could potentially have repercussions in other industries.
I'll just add to Eat India. So probably this could be a small hack for a lot of companies, or how I would do this is, so let's say I am from Solana Foundation, or probably building on Solana, and I want someone who is really good at Rust. So going to Eat India is one of the factors that I would do for sure. But I also have a lot of other companies competing for the same talent pool. What I would do is I would go to a lot of events that are in and around Rust. So Rust has actually become a pretty good community in India in terms of developers. So I just go to the Rust community conference, that is, and probably offer more than what these Web2 companies do offer. And there you will have the topmost talent from the Rust side, and you are also onboarding him to Web3. So it's like dual. You're onboarding people on Web3. You're also hiring someone. You're paying him a little bit much more better than Web2. His win, your win, everyone's win. So probably this could be a small hack that you guys can try out. So whatever base language or base technology you want, try and find out a community that's there in India. Because in India, there are too many smaller communities on a lot of different aspects. Solidity, there's a community. Java, there's a community. JavaScript, there's a community. So you can find them and just try hiring from there itself, instead of just going through the Web3 route. So probably a small hack.
Okay, so let's do a final word. On my side, I would say that on goodhive.io, we're building a collaborative recruitment platform, and we are seeking for onboarding people for everywhere in the world, as long as they have the top skills in Web3. We are looking for tech people on the platform. And you're very much welcome to create your profile and to be listed on our platform. Any last words?
I guess every one of us is gonna give a last word. I wanted also to give a quick hack as well on how to activate talents in African, at least in the Great Lakes regions where Rwanda is, where we are. The gap between Web2 and Web3 is not that big, in my opinion, because big institutions have been working very well on making it more accessible to Web2 people to code on Web3 people, Web3 use cases. I mean, ETH has a JavaScript API. Tezos now has Tezos X, which is JavaScript friendly, and JavaScript is everywhere. So I think I come back again to looking at what makes sense in terms of business, and then make your money where your mouth is. So meaning, if you want more users, more developers, you have to invest. And that's my final word is blockchain could mean a lot. It only depends on the ecosystem and its willingness to go a bit beyond than what it has been doing and only focusing, for example, on investment. But blockchain could be meaning much more than that. I feel like we're still in the early phase of the internet in the 90s. And now we're making it mainstream more and more. If we want to make it mainstream, well, we got to put the dollar where our mouth is. So that's my final word. Yeah.
So I'll sum it up and say, if you're an investor or probably a founder, invest in local companies, because all these emerging local companies are actually building for the world, not just for the localities there. That's number one. If you're a founder, you want to hire someone, please reach out to Goodhive. That's one. If you're a developer interested in AI, or if you're a Web3 developer too, we are building crypto native AI. So you can reach out to me probably anytime you need. And also you can reach out to me if you are in India and want to probably figure out some good food options. I would personally take you there to amazing food. That being said, Web3 decentralization is actually giving us a very, very good opportunity to rewrite the internet and remove some of the centralization which is not helping us to the whole world, not just emerging markets. So let's keep building.
Yeah, and on my side, I just want to emphasize again on the opportunities that Web3 offers, and I think it's definitely something that is there, and I really like the saying. We're really at this phase where internet was born, right? So like that's why it's called Web3. Is really the era of decentralization. So there is still like just so much stuff to do, and I think people realize more and more, and this offers unlimitless opportunities, possibilities from like emerging markets to the world. So yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.